Hi everyone, welcome to another video on Jujutsu Kaisen Phantom Prey. Now this video today is gonna be about the Formidable Foe content, and I'm gonna do a guide on the first stage up against Jogo. Now this is a massive milestone for anyone playing this game because this is basically your first free opportunity on getting one of the best recollection in the entire game, especially for Satoru Gojo, who pretty much everyone used, right? So this recollection is hands down one of the best. It has insanely high amount of buff to curse technique, and also at the same time it also is able to buff curse technique by itself for 2 turns for by 60%. And this is great because especially it can be used after 5 turns. So when you, even if you put it on someone like Gojo who disappear in 7 turns, actually this 5 turn cooldown basically allow you to use this twice in any battle with Gojo. So that's kind of why this is hands down one of the best. And also because this is a free SSR that you can collect all of the copies just by beating all of the different difficulty stages, you are actually able to dupe this out and max it out all the way to level 8 as well. And that basically the raw stats from that is going to be really strong as well. So that's why it's one of the best recollection, and you should definitely aim for this, aim to clear this as soon as possible. It will make your life a lot easier when you're done facing up against other game contents, etc. Now, it's actually a pretty difficult stage. Out of all of the formidable foes, this is the hardest of them all, mainly because Jogo is going to start off with his ultimate stage completely full, and that basically means he will be using his domain expansion on the first turn. And that's really annoying because first of all, he will do pretty much wipe out your whole team except for Gojo. And then at the second time, it's also gonna at the same time, it's gonna make him stronger when his HP falls below a certain level, and that basically most of the time means that it's harder to do damage to him, and that basically just makes this combat extremely difficult because you kind of just go into battle after the first turn. You would only have Gojo left, and Gojo kind of need to 1 versus 1 on Jogo. It's going to be incredibly difficult. Now, there is obviously a cheesy way of beating it. Like, if you want to brute force it, like, good luck. You're going to need some serious raw power. But there is a way of cheesing through it, and that's kind of what I'm going to do this video today to tell you how to cheat through it. And the answer is quite simple, and you've probably seen me using this strategy in my previous videos already. But basically, the main MVP is going to be Toge, because Toge have this ability which is able to stun the enemy. Now, you might be somewhat surprised when you actually take a look at description. For example, I leveled up to level 5 right now, and it says it has a stun probability of 122.3, and you'd be wondering, like, why the hell do you have something more than 100%, right? The answer is because when you stun the enemy consecutively, the likelihood of them being stunned again is going to seriously be reduced. So actually, even though you may be starting off with a 122.3% chance when you on the first turn, if you have already stunned the enemy, then the second time when you are trying to stun the enemy again, it may drop by about like 20 or 25%, etc. So if you actually think about the battle, the formidable foe battle, when you're up against Jogo, what's going to happen is that because you want to prevent him from using his domain expansion, you kind of need to try to stun him back to back consecutively. Now you want to do this for at least 4 turns. Basically, you are trying to stun him until you are able to break him. And once you break him, then he will be in a broken state and he can't release his domain expansion either. So you are kind of looking to continuously, consecutively stun Jogo for at least 4 or possibly even 5 turns, depending on your damage output, etc. And that basically means, as a prerequisite, in order to actually clear this stage with my strategy, you kind of need to level up Toge's skill level, stun skill level. I would personally say you want to level up to minimum level 4 if you're able to break Jogo in 4 turns, or minimum level 5 if you are only able to break him in 5 turns. So that's gonna basically what I recommend. So basically, if you want to stun him for 4 turns in a row, at least level 4. If you want to stun him for 5 turns in a row, at least level 5, right? That's kind of the bare minimum. Otherwise, you'll just be sitting there trying for absolute ages for that RNG chance. Alright, now let me show you the actual gameplay of this battle against Jogo. So the strategy and the lineup is pretty simple. Basically, I have Yaga to buff up my team. I have Toge, who's the MVP, as I said. He will be constantly stunning. Now, the only way for your Yaga and also Toge to be able to buff or stun every single turn, they require curse energy because you only get 10 naturally every turn. However, their move all requires 20. So in order to actually make sure they have enough energy to do this consecutively, this is where Kaito comes in because he is basically the battery that's going to give curse energy to your whole team every single turn through his skill 3. And then obviously you have Gojo for your main damage dealing. Now, my Gojo is dupe 1. If you do not have him at dupe 1, you can just get him a bit higher level through both the level of himself and also the level of his skills, or you can make your recollection even stronger just to compensate for the fact that your Gojo is no dupe 1. But it's definitely doable even when Gojo is a base copy with no dupes, okay? Then backup doesn't really matter because you want to 3-star clear this, so your backup will never even come into the battle. In terms of the recollection, I will keep this to the last because this is going to make your life a lot easier. So I'll talk a bit more details about this last. But basically, whatever you put on Toga, doesn't really matter. I put this R recollection on purely because it give I think like 2% damage buff for 2 turns. It's very, very tiny. However, every little helps. So, and basically the recollection on Toga doesn't really matter anyway. So might as well just whack on an extra 2% for 2 turns. Then you have this free SR one that you want to give to Kaito. And basically, this is a free SR recollection that you get after beating chapter 7. Once again, you give a buff to your damage for 1 turn, and you basically just decide when to use it, and you always use it when you're about to use your ult on your Gojo to get the most out of that damage buff, alright? And then in terms of the recollection on Gojo, any SSR damage buffing would do. I think SR may be able to do as well, but if you are using the SR version, be warned the raw stats is going to be lower than an SSR one, and that basically means you have to definitely compensate it by leveling up the skills of Gojo. My Gojo right now, I think is his normal attack is level 5 and his ultimate attack is level 4. If you do not have an SSR recollection, you probably need to get those both of them to at least level 6 or level 7. And also, I would probably say you would also need the buff skill on Yaga and also the buff skill from Kaito, both to about like level 6 or level 7 as well, just to compensate for that. So if you do have an SSR, basically use it. Even the raw stats is going to be worth it. So definitely use that if you can. Okay, and lastly about this recollection, it's not mandatory, but it will make your life so much easier. Basically, what this is able to do is it's able to charge up your ultimate gauge for your whole team, and that basically allows your Gojo to release its ultimate 1 turn earlier. And basically, Gojo's ultimate is basically the thing you need in order to actually break Jogo so that he no longer is able to use domain expansion. Now, obviously, you can delay that by stunning the enemy instead, and that's kind of why I said this is not mandatory, because if you do not have this, you need to stun. I believe basically if you do not have this recollection card, Gojo would only be able to charge up his ultimate on turn 6, and that basically means you need to stun the enemy boss or stun Jogo for 5 turns consecutively. Whereas if you do have this card, Gojo would then be able to actually charge up his ult 1 turn earlier, and therefore you only need to stun the enemy 4 turns in a row. Now, stunning 4 turns in a row versus stunning 5 turns in a row save you a hell of a lot of time when you keep on retrying it based on RNG, etc. So if you do have it, definitely use it. It will just make your life so much easier. If you do not have it, don't worry. You can still beat it. It might just take you an extra 10 minutes longer because you need to keep on retrying it, or you might just need to level up the stun skill level on Toge to even higher to just get that consistency of always stunning the enemy. Okay, so that's basically the setup you want going into this battle. Now let me show you the actual gameplay itself. The gameplay is straightforward. It's basically just everything I said. You want to constantly stun the enemy while buffing up yourself, and then try to break the enemy as soon as possible to make sure that he will never be able to release his domain expansion. Okay, so turn 1, you buff, you I done that wrong. You buff, you stun, and then obviously I do have this reflection, so I will be using it. And then something else you would also notice is that my Gojo buffed himself up on turn one rather than doing attack. That's just something I found to be actually doing more damage. Like if you buff yourself up in your first turn, that normally means you're actually doing more damage than two normal attacks. That's just something I found, but you're free to try that yourself, however you wish. But then afterwards, turn two, turn three, you just repeat and rinse. To be honest, you keep on buffing, you keep on stunning. Whenever Kaito have the enough curse energy to buff up the whole team, then he does that to make sure they get their curse energy back. And then eventually on turn four, because I have this reflection, I'm able to charge up the energy on my Gojo on turn four. If you do not have it, like I said, it will take you one extra turn, so you have to try your luck one more time by stunning the enemy. But basically, because I have it charged up, this is what I'm going to do now. So I already decided not to stun because I know I will break the enemy this turn. I will be using up my buffing skill on both of the reflection on Kaito and also Gojo and release one massive ultimate attack. This would then end up breaking the enemy and also putting him in killing range. But the most important thing is obviously breaking the enemy to prevent him using his domain expansion. Now, what you don't want to do is now the enemy is on the break state, he will take more damage. So just go all out, do as much attack as possible. So even on Kaito, I could have buffed the team. I just decided to go for straight damage here. And obviously also for Yaga and Toge, when both of them have their ultimate charge up, use them together to get one extra bit of buff, increase in damage from this collaboration attack, right? And yeah, basically just try your best to do every little bit of damage. They all add up, and eventually you would then be able to actually beat the boss by turn 7. If you're not able to beat the boss by turn 7 and Gojo disappear, that's fine. Your backup will come in. You won't get the 3-star, but at least you can still clear the battle in order to get this really, really strong recollection.